It's okay. We're live now.
Okay.
We're live. Woo!
All right. Hello. All right. Yeah. So I would love to start off by giving introductions to the panel here. So we're going to introduce ourselves and discuss a little bit about our creative action that we're currently involved in. Hello. My introduction? Yeah.
Well, we are Bryan and Marcelo. We co-created Órbita Semanal in March of 2022, and since then, the conversations and the sessions have been expanded upon. We are fascinated by the symbols, by the power of the collective, the power of the ideas. I am originally from Mexico, and to explore English, explore language, explore symbology has been a really powerful adventure for me, and now I'm excited to share that with all here. Also, as a closing introduction, I am really excited, moreover, to listen to y'all and get inspired and connect the ideas to make collaboration happen. Thank you.
I can talk from this. I'm Rosemary Villegas. I am the executive director here at Artist Co. Also tech wizard, obviously. I'm also a painter and fiber artist, and I'm really excited to be alongside these really inspiring people today.
I'm Juan Villegas. I'm the programming director here at Artist Co. So my wife and I co-lead this nonprofit artist collective, and we also have our own business called Surreal Nature Studios, which is our studio here in the middle, and we collaborate on murals, fine art, and we love bringing people together. So thank you all for coming in.
Hello everyone, my name is Kellie Stiewert. I am one of the core organizers of an organization called BTX Free Fridge. It's a mutual aid organization in Austin. And I also run garbage humans at BTX, which we do monthly trash cleanups in Austin. I'm grateful that you're here.
Hi, I'm Dave Glander. I'm a visionary for a group called Solar Noir. That's South Lamar. Spelled wrong because we're solar powered and we're going to radiate goodness into the community. And we're well into the concept development. We have purpose statements done and all that stuff. And we're into personal growth and social good.
Thanks, guys. This body is called Bob Peck. It was sperm and egg. You'll soon be bones and soil. But in the meantime, I'm a writer. I write about spiritual philosophy, the connection between world religious traditions, mindfulness, and passionate about community action, social activism. I'm a big admirer of everybody on this panel, and glad to be here. Thanks.
Beautiful. All right. Now that that's out of the way, I'd like to get into kind of what ties this all together. And so, what began the creative renaissance for me, I would say, is there's a lot of, I think, kind of collectively, and I'm kind of speaking from my own perception, this thought that there's like an apocalypse happening, almost. It's kind of like very negative, collective imagination, or it can feel that way at times. And so I think in counter to that, we want to propose the opposite instead of a collective apocalypse, a collective renaissance, which I think, which I feel is readily available to us. And kind of for context, the Renaissance period came about because so many ideas were introduced to the general public at that time, the Western world. Technology, inventions, literature was translated in Italy, philosophy, etc. And so I feel like there is that potential right now with the internet, with the new tools that are being invented even as we speak, for us to help co-create a new world that it doesn't lie in doom, and the most important thing I think for that to be a possibility is for us to imagine it. And so that's where I invite digital spaces, conversations for us to collectively envision a new world, so that we have a counter to I think what's going on in the mainstream, while still being grounded in the reality that we have real challenges. So ultimately, for me, the goal is for us to find that self-empowerment that is readily available to us. It really does take, no one's going to give us permission. No one's going to hand that to us. It is about us, empowering ourselves, if you will. So with that, I'd love to ask y'all collectively, one by one, what is your personal imagination for a creative renaissance?
I have a bunch of answers without being too scripty. Creative renaissance is basically a confluence of a wide variety of creative and imaginative thinkers and methods. Really just a beautiful damn cornucopia of things and thinkers. Progress, diversity, collaboration. Kind of like this panel and like this crowd of humans.
Okay, so what we figured out in our group is primarily it's about community and personal growth, not necessarily in that order, but young people and people in general need to get connected into the community and need to get involved in personal growth programs. And we think that will empower them to get involved and will help fill a void, which is, social media is wonderful, the technology is wonderful, but unfortunately it can create isolation in people. And so they don't connect with each other and they get isolated. And problem with that is you can get into all kinds of trouble with that. So we're trying to be a proactive force in the creative renaissance, to not have be there on the disaster. I've seen the disaster side. Yeah, it's not good.
Yeah, I'll piggyback on what Dave said, in that the creative renaissance to me looks like collaboration, but also mutual aid. I think mutual aid is the way forward. I think that a lot of us, regardless of political party or whatever, are losing faith in the systems that govern us and that structure our world. And so only together can we build something new. There's a lot of creativity in that.
I'll piggyback on what you said. I think the key word here is creativity. So I think it's giving permission, or not even permission, but making people understand that we all have that creative power and that we can all take creative action. Creativity is not something that you have to, acquire through some outside, force. Like it's within us. So it takes us to recognize that we're all creative people. We co-create in this world, and empowering empowering each other is what can really unify us in the end.
Yes. Sorry, I'm feeling mildly distracted by the microphone. I'm just sorry about that. I didn't want to apologize. But yeah, I feel like beautiful things happen when we express ourselves creatively. I feel like a lot of people's creativity was hindered when they were young. And it's something that if you take back as an adult, like really amazing things can happen. I've lived it. And that like creativity goes beyond drawing, painting, making art. It could start there, but it can lead to something incredible. So I think if we are more encouraged to live creative lives, then we can make the world a better place.
Thank you. Thank you for that. And something that it's easy now to answer as I am piggybacking on that because, of course, I do resonate with a lot of the things that you're saying. And I did write something really concise in that aspect. And this for me, the creative renaissance is this mix of ideas and talent, this combination and the translation of our soul theory in that aspect. Our innermost desires through art, collaboration, mutual aid, the revitalization of our imagination, openness, and curiosity to open ourselves little by little to for the possibility. I know that as well, acknowledging the grief and the sadness and the heaviness. I think coming together to validate that and then from there build a ground for the possibility. What comes next from that? What's the solution of the challenges that we are perceiving, that we are feeling as well? Yes.
Thank you, guys. Beautiful. Well, with that context, I would love to kind of ask some questions specifically to the panel members here. And I'd like to begin with Kellie. What is a personal lesson or piece of advice for individuals looking to get involved in community action, especially through initiatives like ATX Free Fridge?
Yeah, my advice is just do it. Just start somewhere, and
It's scary.
it is scary, and you'll figure out what's right for you if you have some kind of core value that you're using to guide you. Certain opportunities won't feel right, and you'll let that go and find something else. So how I got involved in ATX Free Fridge is I started just volunteering, doing what we call food rescues. That's like, say a catering company has leftover sandwiches, they're gonna throw them all away. We'll go get them and bring them to the fridges so that they feed people and don't end up in the trash. I started just doing that, and that led to now I'm like one of 4 people that run it, and it's just you just have to start somewhere, and follow what feels right to you. There's a lot of ways that I volunteered in my life that did not feel right for one reason or another. Don't force yourself to keep doing that thing. If it doesn't feel right, it's not for you, Same, I think that's garbage humans too. I keep it to where you don't have to sign up at all because I want to encourage people to just be able to just show up and just start with wherever they are.
Yeah, thank you. Bob, I have a question for you. In the context of the Renaissance period and spirituality, how do you think the creative expression played a role in shaping society's attitudes and beliefs?
It didn't. No, I'm just kidding.
Thank you.
As this panel knows, I'm listening to Walter Isaacson's Leonardo da Vinci right now, which is unsurprisingly very good. And Leonardo's he's a pretty inspiring guy. The Renaissance period was marked by this explosion, basically, of all of these different factors that all hit at the same time. It's amazing. It's something that's super inspiring to me. And, I think to Bryan's point earlier about doom and gloom? Are we gonna just go off the edge of the cliff, or do we take the pressure that creates diamonds? Do we actually, can we be contemplative? Can we be reflective? Can we, learn from other diverse fields? That's basically what was going on in the Renaissance. You have, in Florence, Italy in particular, you have all of these different tradespeople working right next to each other. You have a lot of patronage from the Medicis, who were like the corrupt banking family. Shout out to the Medicis. But they did, what they did well was they did fund a lot of art. And a lot of artisans became artists. Different tradesmen and tradeswomen, craftsmen were exchanging techniques across disciplines. It was just this beautiful, diverse, I used the word already, cornucopia, just a bunch of different factors all hitting at the same time, which is exactly when, I think he was 14, Leonardo rolled up into Florence from Vinci. So, to be continued on Leonardo. A lot of factors, yeah, inspiring stuff.
Just before you move on, another question on that. Were there
Yes.
dark forces at play? So you say the Medici family are, banksters in some way, but so we're dealing with our own dark forces right now. There's obviously a lot of creativity. Are there similar forces at play in that time in the Renaissance period?
It's a great question. I'm only on chapter 6.
Just in case.
I mean, there was absolutely, evil. There's corruption in the Vatican, which is influencing folks, and even like Michelangelo being commissioned was like controversial because he didn't have the experience, for example. But I think there was corruption going on. They just figured out credit and debit in that period, which helped to this economic boom. Brandon Mike is a very excellent painter and artist, designer in the back here. And he was just talking about artists that you have to worry about making a living. It's I think on some level, money can be that, right? If you have the freedom to be able to create and to make art, then you can. But there's a lot of factors to there. That's
So
a
with
big question.
mutual aid, so like Kickstarter and stuff like that, is that a good example of how we as a species now are funding mutual aid systems, or is there other models that we haven't found yet?
That's a good question.
Question to Fridge ATX.
Yeah.
I think that's the beauty of mutual aid is Kickstarter is an example, but the creative possibilities are truly endless. Like it can take form any way, really. The purpose is that it's direct, direct action. Truly, yeah.
Mutual aid is almost even like post-capital.
Oh, absolutely.
I think unlike painting and art and traditional art, mutual aid is like just the energy of the people. So that may be interesting.
I would just add that, as individuals, we all have a purchasing power. So it's like, what are we spending our money on? What are we choosing to consume? And I think that goes along with, if we are supporting each other in those ways, then like we can affect a better chance, of kind of shifting that.
One thing I've run into is that the business community is like very what's called pro forma. And it costs this much to build something, and we expect this much profit. The builder builds the thing. The builder disappears. The building is there. The building degrades eventually. Oh, it's the Walmart problem, right? And so we need in our space to find people that are not pro forma people, that are the Renaissance people, the philanthropists, the strategic thinkers that are looking at the big picture of improving quality of life and not just making a buck. And I tell you, that's a hard one.
Yeah, thank you for the question. I love this open conversation format. I would love to, in that sense, build off of the conversation by asking Dave, And in your vision for the Cultural Action Center, what positive changes do you hope it brings to the community?
Well, I expect it to long-term change the culture and to get people out of their houses and out of their apartments and get them involved in stuff they want, like volunteering, social good stuff, and into their own personal growth. And you do have to start somewhere, either way, either with personal growth thing or a social good thing, or both. One of my favorite authors is Dr. John Maxwell. If you've never heard of him, he's a fantastic guy. He's personal growth, and he's got this thing. You just got to get started, you know. So that's what our goal is. Get started, and you know we're not in it for the money. So it's a big difference.
Intention. Thank you. This conversation, how can we collectively put more energy back into supporting it?
I would think, like, just coming from here, this space, because this is like what I can speak for. That showing up and participating is huge. Just coming out to art shows and meeting other people, meeting artists, and participating. Maybe you make art and you have not put yourself out there, and then you can participate in the show. I guess because, like, for me, I had always made art, and I knew I wanted to be an artist as a job, but I just like had no idea where to start. I was basically like isolated in my kitchen. I didn't know any other painters, and I've been like that for years. And then I started participating in group shows, and I basically met my husband, but I met almost everybody in my life through that. So I met other people that cared about the same things as me. And so I would say just showing up. I mean, you don't have to be an artist. You could just come appreciate art, talk to somebody about it. Come spend your afternoon like hanging out at a gallery and looking at art. You don't even have to buy art. I think it's just putting some energy towards it.
And it inspires you.
Yeah.
I'm trying to make it a ritual to go to the plant.
Yeah.
I started going at least once a year. And I come home and I have like a million ideas, and it's it revitalizes, it takes the audience out of stagnation. You know, not only does it support the artists, it supports the audience.
Yeah. And just looking, talking, sharing, and buying art is awesome. Extra points for that. You don't have to spend money, you know, you could just be here, talk about it. I mean, I've heard people tell me things that they experienced from looking at my art that made my day, made my week, you know, and it encourages me to keep going as well. But yeah, I see beautiful art and it inspires me to push myself, try new things.
I have a question on the art. Is there any patronage models that exist? So let's say there's someone who likes the artist, like, okay, here's 50 grand, you work for 2 years, and I'll take 5% of your future earnings. Are there any like systems like that for mutual aid? Because that's for me, like, I'm a producer in film, and if I'm writing a script and developing a show, I'm going to look for someone to upfront finance the writing of the scripts. I'm just, for a functional art model, you need to apply different systems across different modalities. And so I'm just wondering, is there anything like that going on also within the art space?
At a small scale, it is. And I think
Grants.
grants is a way that artists can have that, but you know, it's very competitive. I think we could use more people with resources who want to support like the enrichment of our culture, and especially like at a city level, on a local level. We just had an exhibit last month from a collector who has been collecting art for the past couple of years just in Austin. So he's collected from over 100 artists. And he wanted to showcase the collection and give the artists an opportunity to showcase new works and sell them. And he didn't ask anything in return. So people like that do exist in town. It's just, there's just more awareness that people can do that, that that's a possibility. And another thing that I wanted to do, like, there's a difference between like museums and local galleries. Like at a museum, it's kind of stuffy. You can't talk to people. You can't, there's not much interaction. But so you're just there for the art, which is great. But one of the things that I think is really important about participating in local exhibits and acknowledging local artists, that you get the opportunity to meet the artist, exchange ideas, spark more curiosity, and that's what makes like the art spaces really valuable, because then it kind of gives you permission to express yourself more outwardly and exchange ideas with others.
But I think there are people out there that do that. I have not encountered it in Austin, other than that collector, but he was commissioning individual artists, so it wasn't like enough to, pay for you to live and create.
But what's great about this space is that if you created a funding model yourself, it's the Art & Co funding model, and you made an exhibition that's centered around that, let's say there's 5 your best artists in Austin, and each of them need 20 grand for the next 6 months of work, and they're prepared to give away 5% of future profits, then you can brand that as your own incubator fund. And then you're creating your own financial currency system for your own local art network. And then if you multiply that across Austin, all the other art galleries, then you suddenly have a whole actual renaissance of people making and being paid. And everyone's making money on the back end because if art does well, even if one of the 5 artists become big artists and they own 5% of their business, everyone wins. So I'm just wondering, like, you have a space here that if you can maximize that for everyone else, you have it.
Yeah. So actually, we started a fundraiser last year where we were trying to raise funds to, continue to support the local artists. So we have started on the path. So yeah, thank you for sharing that. Because, yeah, we can use more of that. And just, spreading the word. The more people find out about what we're doing and who we are, we're not the only space of that silver in Austin. But it can be more of a, like, it takes all of us to kind of share like what's going on, then we can reach those people.
Yeah,
Sorry, you're talking more about setting up a sort of investment model.
Like
It's
a
not
funding
really a
model.
mutual aid.
Well, it's not mutual aid, no, it's
Yeah.
completely privatized financing model. Because the problem is, as you say, there's scraps for submissions to local government and so on. And like in Europe, for instance, there's far less private investment and there's far more government investment. But you're in America, and in America, you've got to create funding models that are privately created. And for me, when you have a space like this, it's already legitimized. So if you created the Art & Co incubator fund model, and you create the model, and then you promote that, and you look to get high net worth individuals in the space, and then you multiply that model privately across all the other art, that's what I'm saying, that's when you start to accumulate like a whole art situation in Austin that becomes a big. But that's kind of power that's in your hands, like as you say, you already started with. So, and I think these are the crowdfunding models that are going to begin. We're in a decentralized world. This centralized government down top approach is ending. Like, it's ending. We are going to have to take care of each other now. And this is an example in that space, but art's one of the mediums. In writing and books, it's going to be different. In charity, it's going to be different. But as leaders, it's your opportunity to create those models for other people.
But are you guys afraid to like develop a system that's based on profit? It sounds like you're trying to be more of like this sort of like goodwill, we're all in this together sort of.
I think there's room for both.
Yeah.
Certainly, there's room for both, and I think that's important to discuss is, building systems outside of the systems that we're already buying into, and it's not going to happen overnight. And I think I appreciate your contribution in having these ideas, which is the intention of this, right? We don't know what we don't know. There's I think what inspires me the most is everything happens when we meet each other, and obviously there's grace. We don't need to collaborate with everyone. We don't need to engage with everyone, but there's, there are conversations that are imploring us to happen, right? So thank you. And with that, I'd like to ask Dave, again, continuing the conversation on what excites you the most about collaboration between non-conventional groups, and how they contribute to the uniqueness of initiatives.
Well, tell me, what do you mean by non-conventional?
Yeah, sort of, you know, and I think I want to start a conversation on people with diverse backgrounds, people who maybe not have, you know, everything in common, and how those people coming together for collaboration helps the whole.
Yeah, so I think I have to separate it, so I have to separate the builders out of it.
Mhm.
You know, because they don't care. And so of the ones left, the businesses that are operating in some of these buildings and the nonprofits and there are for-profits, there are no profits, but they're called B Corp. That those I see coming together and slowly, because, especially in Austin, because Austin is kind of in a crisis right now in terms of housing affordability and some other issues. And people are getting tired of it. You know, they see another building go up, Google building, you know, and I go, the last thing we need is another building, right? How do we, and I think there's just a sense that that's coming together. But I will say, the COVID thing did slow us down in the Renaissance. It didn't slow the building down, but it did slow down the quality of life of people because they were so distracted with other issues. But that's over, we hope. And so I do see more and more collaboration happening, and including now also the universities. The universities are having a renaissance in art, and they're starting to see their role fit better with this whole thing. So I would say it's things like, the other one, unfortunately, that's not working too well is churches for our group. So we work through another collaborative that coordinates the churches. So we're not actually dealing with a church. We're dealing with a collaboration of churches. And that works pretty good. There is a segment there that is in this collaborative, purpose-driven space, right? And art is part of their world and increasing. So yeah, there's a lot of stuff. And it's funny you should mention that. I was charting, you know, my business plan of I call them stakeholders. And it's, you know, it's the universities, it's the B Corps, it's the nonprofits, it's the demographic that we're actually trying to work with. And it's also, though, the down and outs, like Community First Village, we're collaborating with them, Mobile and Fishes, collaborating with Foundation Community that provides affordable housing for people. We have two of them now on South Lamar. And so that's another collaboration. We also have we're collaborating with people who deal with autistic kids, and stuff like that. So yeah, it's all swirling down at that social good layer, you know, caring layer.
Yeah, thank you. Juan, you know, in that sense of having many different, you know, groups coming together, how do you share that we ensure that we stay unified as people in community, considering the diverse perspectives and stakeholders, you know, that exist?
I think something that I believe and that I like to convey in my, you know, through my art is that in order to come together, we need to transcend our limitations, to transcend division. One of the things that I like to focus is to invite people to recognize our interconnectedness, that we are beyond ethnicity, religion, political affiliation. Those are things that just exist in the material world. They're not ours. We are more than that. We're humans. I don't like when people divide us in races or any kind of category like that, because I like to see ourselves as this beautifully diverse human race. And we failed, or, you know, we have been conditioned to feel like we're all divided. And so I think recognizing that interconnectedness, that we're all one, we can really get to that point of a union and mutual support, because at the end of the day, we're all humans. And we don't know why we're here, but we're trying to figure it out, you know?
Thank you. And then Bob, you know, can you share a moment, you know, Bob, of course, being the author of Original Sin is a Lie, in expressing your writing, your art, your voice, can you share a moment in which that required courage, and what did you learn?
Thanks, Brian. The book is called Original Sin is a Lie, because it is. And I realized recently that I'm dead on that hill. I died on the hill of original sin being a lie, which really it just means we're inherently good. It's a lot sweeter of a sentiment and intention than the title. I wasn't trying to be an edgelord. Thanks, Lo. It's a bit provocative, but you know, I think to your point about courage, and really to Juan's point about interconnectedness, you know, mystic philosophy, the beauty of mystic philosophy is that we all have it within ourselves, within our hearts. Rumi says, I looked in churches, mosques, and temples, but I found the divine in my heart. And that's really the mystic mantra. I think despite the angry commenters that I get from time to time on my presence of Original Sin is a Lie, you know, it's worth it because I know that it's, you know, humbly to me helped some of the human beings. And, you know, I think kind of coming back to like community and service and things like that, like just the fact that I've gotten a couple of messages from people saying, hey, this book helped me in a dark place. You know, even a handful of people saying that, I'll make 1,000 TikToks. You know, that's a real motivation for me.
Thank you. And then Kellie, in your experience, what value and lessons have you discovered through collaboration and how they contribute to deeper community bond?
Yeah, we were talking about this the other night. So I think it's interesting, as kids, we have all kinds of opportunities for teamwork. In school, you're forced to play sports or you play them outside of school, right? Like, we're frequently in team settings and experiencing the collaboration that teamwork brings. But as adults, I mean, we never experience that, ever. I don't. I never played sports, but I was forced to in gym. So you get that feeling. But yeah, as adults, I mean, besides like maybe with your coworkers, you get assigned a project or something, but otherwise, when do you ever experience that? Maybe as artists, you work on collaborative things, but usually just in like 2 or 3 groups, you know, like not like bigger groups. And it can be a really powerful, uniting feeling to collaborate with like a bigger team. So that's something that I really leaned into with the trash pickups and the fridges, but with garbage humans, it's just a really good feeling to unite in a shared purpose. And just, it does remind you of that sense of like, we are all connected, we're all inherently good. So yeah, I think it's like a need. I think humans, we aren't supposed to be living in such isolated little worlds, you know, like genetically, I think what we need and what we're used to is like growing up in community, being a lot more collaborative than we are. And so now that I'm experiencing that teamwork on a regular basis, it's very fueling and it's become a need for me. And if not through trash pickups, I encourage you to find whatever the teamwork is in your own lives because it's inspiring. It really feels good. Yeah.
Thank you. And then
You're
Juan,
so selfish.
I didn't bring my book, your book, for the book swap. I am selfish. That book is mine.
Juan, for someone beginning, you know, with the context of your art, For someone looking to look at the world more closely, what is the best way to begin that journey of observation and understanding?
Spending time in nature. I think, I guess as an artist that kind of became very natural to me to go out into the woods and sketch and listen to the birds and see what shows up. But the more you do it, and maybe because I'm a painter and I'm drawing, so I'm observant of detail. But I think spending time in nature and just sitting with yourself without a phone and just taking in what's around you, I think that is a good way to start. We are connected to nature, that is our great mother. And in our modern world where we get pulled away from that on a daily basis, I think it's important to find time for that. That's where the magic happens, in my opinion.
Thank you. And I would like to ask, I'd love to get into Q&As because I think this, the intention of the event is really to be a catalyst for us and for anyone who, of course, would like to begin this conversation collectively or in their own lives. And so I'd like to ask one more question before we get into Q&As, which is for everybody, some innovations that fascinate you, that you see potential for growth, and this could be tools, initiatives, etc.
I love to start. Something that really excites me is the way that we are now able to exchange ideas and use the internet to support our curiosity, and then coming together, expanding upon it, asking more questions, making art from it. One of the things that I am taking note here is I wrote the title of Proposal of Ideas, starting with yours. That aspect of let us explore the ways that art funding can work, and if our ideas don't work, we learn something then. Decentralized change. This is something that these 2 points of self-inquiring practices through curiosity and symbology. I am so happy to have the innovation of the book, to be able to learn from others in that sense, in that written form, or through podcasts, or through events like this. So I'm really grateful for that. And the last thing is these games of collaboration. If something in a social setting, how can we do teamwork on games? And then for that too, I would love to practice that for the real world. Already loosened up, or at least practiced, familiarized with that idea, that way of doing things. So I'm excited for that.
Yeah, I'll answer. I also just wanted to circle back and say I really liked your idea. And that this is still fairly new for us. We took over last January, and basically the nonprofit was going down the tube, and we had to revive it. So we were kind of in survival mode of we just got to get things going. We put a lot of sweat and work into this place to make it look better, polish it up, and
And it shows.
Yeah, fill the studios, and it's been mostly all volunteer work. So, but I love the idea of thinking bigger. I would never take away a community show and a way for everybody to participate, but to think of well, what's the next level? How can we keep leveling up and offer different levels for different levels of artists? So I really like that. Thank you for planting that seed. And then as far as innovations, for me personally, I had a lot of resistance to technology, except for maybe social media that I had been using. But now that we have this organization, we're having talks like this, and we're going to have a really cool speaker series monthly. Our first one is going to be on Tuesday, and it's going to be financial advice for artists, how to manage your variable income. Yeah, so we want to record that, have it on our YouTube channel, so if you can't be here, it gives more resources to artists and any entrepreneur. So just my personal thing is I'm excited about exploring how we can reach more people through technology. And like, it's growing, it's changing, and I think it's awesome. I want to reach an audience beyond Austin. And we're actually going to have a show this year where we're having artists showcase from different states. So it's like a little bit, spreading that growth. So.
One of the things that I'm really fascinated about right now is there's this revolution happening right now, this shift in how we use technology and more rooted in nature, and specifically finding out about what mushrooms can do. We've been on a mushroom
technology.
Yeah, so I don't know if you guys follow Fantastic Fungi, for example, but I mean, they've been revolutionary this past few years. We got a chance to meet some folks at the Multidisciplinary Association of Psychedelic Science back in 2019. Like Paul Stamets was one of the speakers. We really got on this mushroom journey, and we've been fascinated by what mushrooms can do. And that just shows how nature is our biggest teacher. And the more that we base our progress and our growth in nature, like the better we are for our future generations. We've been on a destructive path since the Industrial Revolution. So I think right now we're kind of paying attention on how coming back to, learning from what nature does organically, then we can really shift that and have a more hopeful future.
Yeah, I was going to talk about mushrooms too, and say it's not an innovation, but we are learning more about them. You guys, they can decompose plastic. That's so fucking cool. That's like so cool. And they also this underground network that literally keeps everything connected, right? It's really inspiring stuff. I'm excited to see what more we can learn about them and how we can harness what they can do to improve everything. Yeah.
Save our planet.
Well, planet will stay right, save us.
Yeah, I would say I agree with the nature thing. And, Solar Mars decided to have an advisory team. I don't do solar. And we like the Moth Sculpture Garden model where you can walk around the art, and we'll have a miniature version of that. And also let parents who have young children come in and see beasts art. They won't be able to touch it or knock it over or anything. But someone can come in and show them art, nature kind of stuff. And this is all like under solar covered walkways and that sort of stuff. So it's to kind of attract people into that nature thing. So you're not like in a building, you're in a space, a happy space, a non-threatening space. And so I think I see all that kind of stuff happening. How do you find a place to park at the Glen?
Hey, check.
Can I be a downer?
Yeah.
All these optimists. So this isn't from a comedian, but he said AI is really cool. It's really exciting. We're using ChatGPT. We're using all these new tools. However, now robots are painting while humans are working in Amazon warehouses. Can we switch it? Can the robots be working in the warehouses and humans can paint? So that's the dystopian joke. I am optimistic, obviously. I did, before we pass over to questions, I have to read a little bit about Leonardo. I had to come back.
I know, please.
Okay, because he said something almost exactly what Juan said, which doesn't surprise me because Juan is a creative man. Leonardo da Vinci says, every now and then go away, have a little relaxation, for when you come back to your work, your judgment will be surer. Go some distance away, because then the work appears smaller, and more of it can be taken in at a glance, and a lack of harmony in proportion is more readily seen. So just get some distance. And he also said this, maybe he was talking about mushrooms. He said, study the science of art. Study the art of science. Develop your senses, especially learn how to see. Realize that everything connects to everything else.
Thank you. Yeah, beautiful. And I'd like to add what's been fascinating me, and I think going off of that, what happened in the Renaissance, as I see it, is there was a change in collective perspective. Like humanism came about, which kind of said you have value outside of religion. And I think right now, as we are, I feel like, at least where my bubble is, like there's a spiritual kind of flourishing going on in communities like Austin. But I also want to say, what I'm excited about is for all of us, as we learn more stories, as we learn more perspectives, as we learn more information and knowledge and apply it, that we'll continue to improve our lives. And I think that's one thing, when I think some of us subjectively can feel like things are really bad, but when you look at the big picture, you see, wow, we're probably the most privileged and lucky human beings, generation of human beings yet. And I want to keep that energy of, with the energy of, we can solve our problems. Yes, they feel very large, but together we can begin to do the work and not feel, powerless in the face of very large systems that at the same time have not been around for very long. And as we're kind of pointing out is, they might be around much longer. Things change, and so I think by having a stronger community that's more informed, that's more inspired, we can really face large challenges and pass that on to generations, which is why I think it's important for us to create, to express. So with that being said, I would love to hear questions from the crowd.
I have a question for Bill. So AI, how about the idea that AI is just a great challenge as a species to beat that machine inside us? I wonder what your thoughts are.
I think you're
Bob,
right.
not Bill, sorry.
No, I think you're right.
It's a great challenge.
Yeah. I don't know if I have much else to add to that, you guys.
Like, I can tell you, I'm in college and you are not allowed to use AI. If they find you, if they catch you using AI for anything, any content, they grind you. You're in front of the knees or somebody. It's just absolutely forbidden because it means you're not using your brain. You're using somebody else's brain, and that's not University of Val. So very strict on that part. This is a short story. My son was he was in his neighborhood and someone was complaining about the homeowners association about the weeds or something, right? So my son fed this thing into an AI, and so the thing wrote a homeowners association letter, right? And he sent it to him, and it was really a good letter. It was well written. And I tell you what, why don't you have the person that got the letter do an AI response, and then we can just all get out of it, just let the AI stuff talk to each other.
Yeah, there was recently a scientific research study that was quote unquote peer reviewed, and they found halfway through it said regenerate response.
Wow.
So folks are already using AI generated to say that they put that study out. It's going to change everything. Scrap in. Yes, sis.
Hi, I'm also in college. I had a professor last spring who was like, just use it. Apparently, with ChatGPT. Apparently, if you look at the United States Constitution through it, it comes back as 98% AI generated. So it's kind of a mixed bag.
Oh yeah. Now there's tools that detect whether or not it's AI, but they're not good.
Not accurate.
It's not actually, this is AI. Yeah.
I kind of have a follow-up question regarding AI. Do you think that AI has any space in the creative community?
I love that question. And that was my answer in the terms of, the other day we were talking about how, well, I've been having this thought also lately that reassures me is the aspect of significant art is created through significant feeling And now, of course, one of my pillar here is to remain open, remain curious, explore, ask questions, keep on asking the questions. And so I don't think that AI is still able to like feel, or at least to transmit a human feeling. So that's my whole part of it. That feeling trumps that aspect.
I'd like to say something.
I wanted
Go
to say
ahead, you first.
something. I think it can be really helpful for a creative when you are doing literally everything for yourself or your job, and you're like, I need to write an email, and I want to say this in a kind, professional way, and I know what I need to say, but I don't have all day to like make this email sound pro. So in that way, I feel like it's very helpful, and also concepts. I think it's really amazing what you can generate, like to come up with new concepts, and you have ideas in your brain, so it can kind of speed up the artistic process because you're like, I have this idea, you know, I can play around and I can get, I can get ideas. But then you're still going to put your own energy into it, you're going to make it your own thing. But I think it's cool for that.
I just wanted to add that back in the 1800s, when the camera was first invented, painters were highly threatened because they thought that the camera was going to take away their jobs. And, we still have portrait painters doing portraits, and the camera photographers are taking shots. And so I think it'll just become its own thing. It'll be incorporated into the great umbrella of what art is. And I think it is a great tool. So, I think it comes a level of responsibility of like, if it doesn't make you lazy, like, if it just encourages your growth and your vision, that it's a great tool. And I think it's just, so we're trying to figure out the balance of like, how much is our input versus, we're just like letting the computer do its thing, call it our own.
And the camera helped artists help painters.
Right.
Because then you have reference photos.
Actually help painters.
Yeah, that's what I want to say about it, is like, when we're thinking creatively about social change, often we have trouble visualizing things that we've never seen before.
Mm-hmm.
So to what degree can we use tools like AI to give us models for things that we just don't know what things could look like, right? Like, we don't know. So I think right now it's being used for cheating or silly things, but like it has real power to be really transformative. Yeah.
So somebody asked me, said, well, why don't you check out Snap, GMP, whatever it is. So, I have that. But I fed our vision statement, purpose statement into the thing to see what it says. Now, our purpose statement says we promote joy, not happiness. We're promoting joy and through personal growth and social good. So I fed that whole statement in there. And you could tell that it does not understand the word joy. Because it kept converting it to happy. You want to be happy, do this to be happy, buy something to be happy, and I was really disappointed. I was hoping I'd get something cool out of it,
How do you define joy?
Joy is defined as basically having hope and gratitude.
There's more meaning behind joy, and happiness is like fleeting.
Yeah, it's more, joy is more long-term, whereas happiness is temporal. So you may wake up feeling like really happy, and then your car won't start. And all of a sudden you're like not happy anymore. It's not like that with joy. If you wake up joyful and your car is dead, you're still joyful. You just thank God you have battery.
Yeah.
Or wherever you worship.
You're in the car.
Yeah, you still have a car. So it's a different, they really are separate emotions. I mean, not the same emotion.
Thank you.
And we spent long, you can't believe how much time we spent picking with the word joy. I mean, we had arguments over it. But that's what we settled on.
Sarah, you had a question?
Yeah, let's have a question. Commenting on AI, I think it's important to remember that all of these robots or whatever, like the AI is trained on models that humans feed. And so we are generating things that are novel to us, but it all comes from the existing fodder of creativity and humanity and who's training those models. So it's important to kind of recognize the danger there. If you've ever seen any of the AIs that are trained on other AIs and how they progressively get more messed up, it's that kind of thing is I think people like to mystify AI as doing something that's beyond what human brains are capable of. But all we're doing is trying to mimic what we already have. But those models don't exist in a vacuum. They are subject to the same problems that our own minds are, whether that's being, I don't know, capitalistic or judging certain sort of groups or biased. Yeah, they're biased. So
Sure. Great point.
It's what libraries they play from. If the AI was starting to pull from ancient histories and ancient symbology and real serious literature, will humanity be able to actually understand it? So I think the AI is just a mirror concept of our consciousness, and depending on where we are in our iteration in this timeline, we can either be getting fed back dumbed information or really high level information. And it's really up to us to ask the AI to comb the serious stuff. But that's really out of our hands unless we program the AI to pull from really deep wisdom.
I love that. Yeah,
I agree.
we agree. Yes.
I just wanted to add, same goes for social media that is operated by AI right now. It's what are we sharing? What content are we sharing? What content are we consuming? We are the ones who are feeding this. We're feeding it all this content. So it's we have a responsibility to choose what we want to share and highlight. Because like you said, it's man-made. So it's up to us.
Also, I would like to echo the aspect that it's all about the prompt, that aspect, right? Not just in the sense of in artificial intelligence, but also natural intelligence, the way that we prompt ourselves for change. Not really, it's that, the promptings, the questions, the iteration of that, not just maybe going off with our initial prompts, creatively, self-inquiry, etc., but going deeper and developing that.
Isn't Elon creating one that's a higher level of intelligence that I've read about? Elon Musk has created an AI now. I don't know if it's available yet, but he's creating one that might be at a higher level of intelligence.
Doesn't it
I think there's a lower level of intelligence.
Yeah.
Me too.
What age is it?
It's on Twitter.
Does it pay for it? Pay AI.
Maybe it'll help him learn to unionize his company.
Grok is one of those words in English language. You know the
Sure.
origins of that?
That's true.
It's a William Burroughs 1960s word to mean groovy, joy, grok. Grok was spirit.
Yeah, it's like an embodiment.
Yeah.
Knowledge.
So
The answers are
fair folks
very
to
a lot of humor involved with it.
say again.
And that AI is more trained on humor.
Ah.
Funny
Right.
things is kind of trying to really
Doesn't it pull from only Twitter data?
I think that's the vast majority of this allows it to be live and more current with this information because it's constantly making that live news.
The last thing I want to do is cut off the conversation. I'd like to, close this out with anyone who hasn't gotten an opportunity to ask a question. If anyone else would like to before we continue this conversation in a group, not with the speaker.
I got a question. How as artists do y'all think we can expose truths like war, poverty, social injustice? How can we as artists expose the pain and suffering of this world and transcend that without, oh, I'm gonna block him, he's exposing what's the realities of the world, like God's getting bombed every day, Russia killing each other, Israel, all these things leading us to the apocalypse, but as artists, our hearts, Christ consciousness, we need to keep spreading, and the joys of enlightenment and love and, serenity and community. And it's so heart-wrenching to see the realities of war, touching, like, piercing the veil of that, and coming back and just like, oh, I'm gonna look at beautiful things, when really the war is life is a constant spiritual war. It's a spiritual battle almost that I've experienced for 36 years since I've been on this planet. And so it's just, as an artist, and the Christ consciousness in me wants to expose that, that non-duality, that we're all one, where there's no separation. And as an artist, it's so hard not to just be shut out. Oh, like you said, like, I don't want to sit there and watch war every day, or like news, and like, how do we expose these pains and sufferings to people that don't want to hear it, that don't want to, like, hey, there's homeless, there's people dying, man, like, there's people hurt, our brothers and sisters are dying every day by the thousands, and we're just like, oh, let's paint something pretty, or let's act, let's make a movie about the Avengers, like, fuck that. Like, I want to create things that expose the pain and suffering, and through that we can transcend. So how do y'all as a collective consciousness think we can do that as artists? Because I feel like it's very bleak, and
this is the highest role of the artist.
Yeah,
right? It's a perfect question, and I'm really glad that you asked it, because I'm not going to quote Leonardo. I will, maybe in a minute. And what's funny is Dylan just referenced William Burroughs. William Burroughs says, "Artists, to my mind, are the real architects of change, not the political legislators who implement change after the fact." We have this false idea that the so-called authorities, the ones that make the change. Our buddy James McCrae, who is friends with some of the people here, he's writing a book called The Art of You. He references that Burroughs book, and he talks about Shakespeare. Who knows who the king was when William Shakespeare was writing his plays?
Henry VI?
No, I don't know. Yes, you don't know. These guys are from the UK, and they don't even know. Nobody knows. Historians, yeah, you guys, that's a whole other story. The Irish folks over here. Down with the king. We're Americans too. You
guys left us. I came here instead of your.
We threw the tea in the harbor, you know what I'm saying? But that's the point, is nobody knows who the king was or the queen was. Shakespeare is the one who changed the world.
Yeah.
With his plays, he changed how we look at relationships, how we look at existence. He invented over 100 phrases that are still used today. And that's just one example. I think the creative act is a very human act, and that's all of it. It's a totality of it.
Yeah, I thank you so much for your question, Keon. I want to give room for someone else if they'd like to answer, but I want to say, the change that we're going to see is going to take a lot of courage. I think that's a really powerful word, because to your point, some people do not want to are have an aversion to certain things. But I do believe, through us expressing and using our voice against injustice, that's what's going to, and what has driven change. And so I do think that ultimately, when I say like empowerment, like self-empowerment of us to fully create and express and imagine and share that vision with others. Because one thing that I've learned and has humbled me in the last couple of years, especially with friends like this, is we are so impactful. And I've had most of my life a challenge with expression. I've kind of been very private, and so, but I've realized that my soul is fulfilled in sharing. And so I don't have the full solution, and I'd love to continue that conversation right even after this panel. But I do think that the one thing I'd want to implore to anybody is to express, create, share. Ultimately, share what's in your soul, what's burning you up, and tied in a for me, it's having it be tied in a foundation of transmutation, right? There's such heaviness. How can I improve? How can I offer a solution? How can I just listen sometimes, right? That'd be my answer.
Real quick though, before you go on off this subject, it's interesting that you said something about the Avengers movie and how do you create social change, or how do you inject that into your artwork? Most people don't know this, but the X-Men was a parallel to the civil rights movement. So you talk about Professor X being Martin Luther King and Magneto being Malcolm X. So here you have art mirroring an actual social problem, social injustice, and that's how you do that. You don't have to beat somebody over the head with, hey, this is war, this is going on, this is that. But you can always interject what your opinions, what your thoughts are in artwork. And on top of that, it doesn't have to be like the people that see it are going to see it. And the people that it's for are for. The people that it's not for, they're going to see an Avengers movie. Mm-hmm. So you have to be the person that interject whatever you're thinking into your art. Because honestly, if your art's not saying anything, then it's just something pretty to look at. Mm-hmm. But most people and most artists are thought provokers and are thinking about what is around them and what they see in the world. And that is going to encourage them to make art. Because if not, then you're just doing fluff, right? Mm-hmm. So,
well, thanks, Juan.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you, Eric. Yeah, well said. I wanted to add a little thing too, because I feel like it is about what feels authentic for you to create. Because I feel like sometimes my art personally can be like fluffy, or but that's how I'm processing my shit, and I'm gonna use symbols that feel empowering to me. So it may just be a frog to somebody, but it means way more to me. And then I'm gonna reach those people that it feels authentic for. But not everybody's gonna get it. But the people who do, it's worth it. So and if making a very dark painting feels authentic for you, then do it. But that doesn't feel authentic for me. But yeah, that's why it's important that we all use our creativity and our voice, because we're going to reach different people. I'm not going to reach everybody. You're not going to reach everybody. But I might reach someone, you might reach someone, and then we all collectively grow.
Symbolism transcends language. So like the power of symbolism is it's what's the word for that? Yeah, but not explored enough. I think like as artists, like we can really dive into symbolism and get to as many people as we can. Transcendental.
Yeah. Good word, guys.
All right, thank you all. Yeah, that's great. Thank you all for being here. Again, this is just, us opening conversation. We would normally probably be having a conversation like this anyways, when we hang out. So to me, this event is about creating alternative styled events than what may be commonly open in Austin. We might have just a regular mixer, or any other sort of event that we all go to. So I would love to, of course, continue this conversation for us to share ideas, and then also right now for us to, any closing remarks?
Yeah, one more plug. We do have an open call right now, so if anyone in the audience is an artist and would like to submit work, it's a non-themed show, so it could be anything. But the submissions are open until the 30th, and then the show opens Friday, February 9th. So also, if you want to come meet other artists, creative people who like art, come out to the opening. Right.
Also, Tuesday at 6 p.m. for the art smart business.
Yes, if you want to learn about managing your finances.
Every
Every,
third Tuesday.
it's all on the website.
Yeah, I'd like to also plug, we have more information from every panelist at the table there. Under this must be the place. There's also, it's the place. And so feel free to add your art there. There's a whiteboard, if you will, and a book swap, yeah. So thank you everyone who brought a book. We essentially, I'd love for everyone to go into the room and, how do y'all want to do it? Explore.
Take a look, leave a book.
Grab a book, ask, have a conversation with somebody who may have grabbed your book. Please, let's continue this conversation. We're gonna be here until, at least Marcelo and I, a little bit after 3, and any plug?
Thanks so much.
And thanks so much.
Thanks, guys.